Hello, dear. It's Heather, and you're watching Save Today with Heather J. I'm somebody who has spent her entire adult life living paycheck to paycheck and being one life event away from financial crisis. This channel is my attempt to change that for myself. I want to create a much brighter financial future than my financial past has been. I'm definitely not a professional in any in any way at all. There's a lot I don't know. There's a lot of mistakes I make. This channel is not a how-to. This channel is in no way the right way that these things should be done. It's simply what I'm trying to do to pay off some debt and to get some of the large ticket items I want to get. I'd like to be able to get some savings put aside. I'm not there yet, and that is so far in the future that I can't even begin to talk about what those plans might be. Right now, I very much have my nose to the grindstone, and I'm just trying to get debt paid off. And then I have a couple of large ticket items that I want to have that are going to step in as quickly as I can get those in there once my debt is taken care of. Even now, I mean, until that debt's taken care of, those other things just aren't a reality. And some of them have been on my want list for over 5 years, pushing on 10 in some instances. So they're still not a reality. And they're a closer reality than savings is going to be. And for a lot of people in this budgeting genre, savings is a huge part of what they're discussing, and I'm not there yet. That's not what I'm here for. I want to get there. I don't see that being my next 6 months, my next year. Today, I'm going to set up my paycheck number 2 for September budget. For me, paycheck number 2 in September is the 8th to the 21st of September. For me, my rent is due on the 1st of the month, and I have that set up on auto pay, and I get paid every other Friday. So a lot of times my month does not line up with the exact month. For me, September ends on as far as my budgeting goes, ends on the 21st, and October, as far as budgeting goes, starts on September 22nd. So we aren't even close at this point to where the beginning of the month is, but I have to start my month in whatever paycheck encompasses the 1st. And so that's how that lies for me for this month of September. Paycheck number 2 for me, again, is the 8th of September to the 21st of September. When I set up these paychecks, when I set up this estimate, I start with my monthly budget, and then I set up paycheck number 1 and paycheck number 2. Those all get set up as an estimate all together in the same block, but they don't get posted in a video until the time when they would actually be due. I can't make a monthly estimate if I'm only looking 2 weeks ahead. And so anything that may have happened in paycheck number 1 that's going to have an impact on paycheck number 2, that doesn't really get factored into these videos because the estimate itself was set up 3 weeks ago as we were beginning to get prepared for September. So if you watched my closeout for paycheck number 1, you may be aware that some of what I'm saying here is not 100% accurate. I will briefly discuss that in my setup, but for the changes and the impact will show up actually as I close that out, not as I set this up. I'm not going to set this up differently because of the changes that happened last when I closed out paycheck number 1, because again, this estimate was set up about 3 weeks ago, and I have to move with what estimate I had in hand. So when I set up my estimate, I take my hourly wage and I times it times the estimated hours I work that week times the amount of weeks in that pay cycle that we're discussing. And then I take out 25% for my taxes. So for me, that's $20.85 an hour times an estimated 38 hours a week times 2 weeks in this pay period. Take away 25% for taxes and medical. That leaves me with an estimate of $1,188.45. Now, in week paycheck number 1, there was a missed punch and I didn't get paid for about 4.5 hours. That's where I'm referencing the difference from one to the next that I can't carry over here. When that got corrected, I was informed that that will show up on paycheck number 2. So when I come in here at the end of this pay period and put in my actual, this will look very different. And we know that going in because of what happened with my last paycheck. But I don't get to change that estimate out here because that impacts the month as a whole. It will show up there at the end. And then in my wages, I have this line for other. I very rarely have any other income. This is almost always going to be 0. Again, I do not have a second job. I do not receive child support. I don't have any investments, rentals, anything I would be getting any kind of regular, consistent payments with. This is going to be for any kind of one-off things that show up. When I have taxes that I receive or birthday money I want to put in here. And I finally did get it set up to where when I'm moving income out and then back in, just based on the house share situation we're doing, that will show up there, and it did in my last paycheck. So in the beginning, the estimate for my wages is $1,188.45. That's what I'm estimating is going to come in when I set up this paycheck. The next thing I go over in these are my fixed expenses. And my fixed expenses are my bills. These are the things that I'm required to pay. I don't set up the fee or the rates. I just have to pay the thing. And for most of these, I don't even really have a choice on whether I pay them or not. This is going to be my rent, utilities, my phone bill. For the most part, there is very little flexibility in with this. And I just have to pay it. So for the first thing I have on here is my utilities at $153.31. My utilities, I thought I had finished paying off everything I was behind when I closed out August. And I found out I had not paid everything off. I had missed somehow my bill in June. I didn't just pay it late. I completely missed it entirely. So while I thought I was caught up, I was not. That bill in June is $131.31. I currently have my utilities where the landlord pays it and I pay him back. I get a $20 service fee for that. And then I go to the post office and get a money order, which is a $2 fee for the money order. So that's why it's $153.31 instead of $131.31. That's the $20 service fee and the money order fee included in that. And this is likely going to end up being more when we get to my actual, because I did not get to pay. I had initially set it up that my June would be paid on my first paycheck and my current would be paid on my second paycheck. So this $153.31 was an estimate. I just took what I was behind and I doubled it. I didn't get to pay the utilities in paycheck number 1 because of that missing 4.5 hours. So hopefully I will get both of those paid on this paycheck. So this will actually be significantly more over here. I won't know that until we get to that closeout, but this is again something from paycheck number 1 that ultimately is going to affect paycheck number 2, but I can't change this estimate here. My phone bill is estimated to be $211.50. I had been playing a game of catch up with my phone bill and with my utilities. When things got down to crunch time at the end of June and all through July, the phone bill and the utilities were the 2 bills that I had a little bit of flexibility to be able to push off and make payment arrangements for, and that is what I had to do. This phone bill I had set up for this month to pay what I was behind in paycheck number 1 and my current in paycheck number 2 on this phone bill, as well as that utility bill. And so this $211.50 is what my current bill should be at the estimate. My current bill has 2 phone lines in it, 1 tablet in it, the home internet. I did cancel. I originally had 2 insurances, one on one phone and one on the tablet, and I canceled those 2. And this $211.50 is the estimate I was given when those were canceled. I have since then, after I paid my past due and paycheck number 1, I have gone in and set my phone bill up on auto pay, which should take another $20 off, but that is not estimated to come out during this pay period. That's estimated to come out next month. We'll see how that goes when they actually withdraw the money for that. But right now my phone bill is estimated to be $211.50 this pay period. Then I have a credit card that's due. That one's $200. That is not a current credit card. It is a credit card that I unfortunately maxed out and ended up having to get closed. And now I'm having to pay that off. And eventually I will get another credit card to start building my credit again and start being responsible in how I'm spending that. But that's not something that is on the immediate horizon. I had thought once I got caught up on all of this that might be the next thing the first thing I do to kind of build my credit. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that when I do my debt overview closer to the end of the month, but I'm kind of changing what my thought process might be as far as building up my credit. I have something I'm wanting to do probably February, March, that is going to require likely a credit check, a hard inquiry, I think they call that, on your credit check. And I think that if I were to get a credit card now, that's a hard inquiry, and then try and do what I'm trying to do February or March, that's a second hard inquiry. I think that's too close together, and I don't want to impact that by getting another credit card yet. The thing that's happening in February or March is the most important part for me. And again, we'll discuss that as we're going over my kind of end of the month debt overview and explore some of those options, because I just have a lot kind of swirling in my head around that. But that's what that $200 is just paying that off, that old credit card, and that will be automatically withdrawn. I have a subscription for $10.82. I have old rent for $73.60. Again, I call this old rent, but that's the move out fees. Whenever you leave a place, they find all of the different ways they cannot pay back your money. It's very frustrating because I clean from ceiling to floor when I leave a place, and I actually start with the rooms furthest from the back, get those clean ceiling to floor, and then shut the door and don't even go back in there. I make sure I leave a place in good condition. It is often in better condition than when I got it. It's definitely cleaner than when I got in there. But inevitably, they find every single nail hole to charge you for. So that is, I had an old fees related to that, and I am paying $70.94, and I'm getting a money order, and I'm mailing that off to take care of that. That should be taken care of in what would be a 10-month time frame. I might decide to bump this up and get this sooner again, because I want to kind of get it out of the way and off my credit prior to what I'm trying to do in February or March. But right now I can't. So this $73.60 is the $70.94, the $2 money order fee, and then a 66-cent stamp to get that in the mail. And then I have these toll roads for $198.85. This is the last of my current debt that had been built up. I had been given, I was living out of a different state from where I am now, and I was unaware that they had a lot of toll roads in a very specific area, and an area I didn't go to very often. And instead of having, I'm used to having where you drive through, you have to wait in line, there's somebody in a ticket booth, and then the arm thing goes up and down. You're very aware that you're going through it, and you go through one, and then you drive over whatever the toll road is. A bridge is where I'm familiar with that, and it's a one and done situation. These particular roads, it was some sort of thing you drove under, where there was nobody around. It just looked like, you know, when it's holding the freeway street signs up and letting you know when your next exit is. And there was like every mile and a half there was one of these, and you just drove under, drove under, drove under, drove under. You're under the same road. Nothing has changed, and you're still getting charged for that. So this was a bill. I got irritated that it was even a thing. I felt like they were holding in particular, the airport hostage. I couldn't get to the airport without going through these roads. And I felt like the airport is, you don't have, I don't know, you don't have a choice for that. I felt like that was being held hostage. I could not go to IKEA if I didn't know the toll roads, but I couldn't leave the state. I couldn't fly. It just, anyway, I got in my feelings. I didn't pay the bill. I got a whole lot of late charges, and what had originally been $50 is now $200. And I'm estimating when I call and make my payment arrangements on that, I will find out for certain what it originally was, and if I can perhaps pay anything less than that to get that taken care of. But right now the estimate is $198.85. That is the bill that I have in my possession that I need to pay. And then the last thing I have here is this line for other, and this is the first time that's showing up. And I don't know how long I'll carry this forward, but for right now, this is the thing that makes sense. In June and July, we had a lot of bills that impacted us as a household, and there were situations where I had to temporarily move funds out of my account and have that come back into my account. And I didn't have any way of showing that out and back in situation. And even though I knew what was going on in my budget, I didn't have a way of showing that here. So now I've included this other line. So, for example, I took $1,000 out of my income to help pay for the car repairs, which then came back in a week or 2 weeks later with that person's next paycheck. And so there was an out and an in and an out and an in that happened. Now this would show up there. If something happened and I decided I was going to go ahead and move that money out, that $1,000, it would show up here. And then when it came back in the next time, it will show up in here. So that way I have a record keeping on this as well as in my head and in my chicken scratch that's outside of this channel, because I found it very difficult to track that on video and make that make sense there. So, and I've now included this other line. And again, that's not something that's going to likely have anything other than zero as I do my estimates. That's there for if things kind of change unbeknownst to me when I set up those estimates. So for my fixed expenses, my estimate is $848.08 in bills this month. That's as much as my rent is at this point. And let's see, anything here? There isn't anything on, well, this toll roads may go, once that's gone, that's gone. But a lot of this stuff is things that are just going to be happening month after month fairly consistently. This $848.08 is almost exactly what my rent is at $853. So my bills and my rent, I have my rent at the beginning of the month and my bills at the middle of the month, and those kind of balance out. And so for right now, while I'm doing so much to pay off debt, it doesn't make sense for me to split my rent, to take half of my rent and set it aside, and then, to split those up. It just makes more sense to have my rent come out of the first. If ever this gets low enough that it begins to make sense to take my rent and make that partial, I may do that, and then I might be able to get my months be closer to what an actual beginning and end of the month looks like, and I won't have to be so based on paycheck to paycheck situation. But I don't know when or if that's ever going to happen. Right now, my bills and my rent pretty much equal out. The next thing I have here is my flexible spending. This is the things I have greater control over: my groceries, dining out, transportation, my art, and miscellaneous. I can choose where I go grocery shopping, and those have a wide range of price tags attached to them. I can go to a Whole Foods high-end, I can go to a farmer's market, I can go to a bargain basement, bulk bin store. I have a wide variety there. So that's what my flexible spending is, the things I have a little more control over, and I don't owe anything until I'm standing right there in line ready to pay for that, versus a bill that, whether I pay it or not, I still owe it. So for this pay period, I have estimated $140 a week in groceries for $280 for the pay period. In dining out, I've given myself an estimate of $0. I know for myself, dining out is my number one greatest challenge. And it's entirely likely that I will be in the red before the pay period is over. I know that going in, and I'm okay with that right now. Right now, having something in the red, that red color, isn't something that freaks me out. This is just knowledge and awareness. I have a very, very tight budget right now because I'm trying so hard to get caught up on all of my other things. I didn't have any extra money that I could choose to budget in and make a line on here that gave me some. If I spend anything in dining out, it will impact something else, whether that's my groceries bill, whether that's this toll roads. I have gone through the entire paycheck number one without having spent anything in groceries, and entire paycheck number two of the previous month. I've gone so far a solid 4 weeks without spending anything in dining out. And for me, that is a phenomenal win. I'm not planning to go spending on dining out in this week, but if I do and this turns red, that's okay. I have done a fantastic job. However, I would love it if this stayed zero, and I'm kind of playing in my head with a way to reward myself if I actually get through this entire paycheck and not having spent anything dining out. The reward system is something they recommend a lot when you're struggling. I know for like weight loss, if you get to whatever this next step is, reward yourself, and you want to try and reward yourself with something that's not food related to backslide yourself in a weight loss situation. So then you're going to go buy the book you want or something. I don't know what that's going to be. If I go through an entire 6 weeks, this entire next pay period, with zero dining out, what I might decide to reward myself with. At this point, I'm thrilled, so thrilled. 4 solid weeks of zero dining out. That is absolutely unheard of for me. Anyway, moving on. Transportation, I've given myself an estimate of $40 a week. When I set up these estimates, I assume I'm going to need to fill up my car at least once a week, and I make that estimate at $3.79 a gallon. When I began setting up way back in April to get prepared for setting up this budget in this channel, that's the only time I really paid attention to document what gas prices were, and at that time they were $3.79. Gas prices fluctuate up and down constantly. I'm not going to change my estimate for that up and down constantly. So $3.79 a gallon is where my estimate sticks until it consistently becomes something different than that. So my car holds about roughly 10.5 gallons. So I've given myself, 10 gallons would be 37. What did I say? $37.90. So basically $40 a week. But I haven't been filling up my gas tank every single week. It's been about every maybe 10 days. So I may, going forward, look at dropping this, maybe just taking one fill out. But for this pay period, that's where I'm at, $80 estimate for transportation. In my art, I again have $0 estimated in my art. The project I have picked to be the thing I'm working on this month, I'm fairly certain I have everything I need for that. And I'm gonna tell you, I just last night was looking at going to purchase something for this. I felt like I didn't have, and I went looking, and in looking online, I realized I do have something that's gonna work for that. We'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to my project in the back. But I had very comfortably decided I was going to go and purchase this thing I needed. Because I no longer had what I was looking for, and realized I don't have to. So that's good. That's likely going to stay zero this entire month. And because of the project I picked, that's great. And then miscellaneous, I've given myself an estimate of $0. Miscellaneous is kind of a catch-all category. This gets the things that I was not aware of when I set up my estimate. There's lots of things that pop in there that just have to be dealt with immediately, whether that's an unexpected bill or some other things that come up. In June, I believe, I had some, I guess it was May, I had some tax related things that showed up. I had to go to Staples, I had to make copies, I had to get emails, I had to do, and that couldn't wait until I could estimate that in the next month. So that's where these things fall into this miscellaneous category. Those random things that show up out of nowhere that just have to be dealt with right now. And any kind of one-off spending goes in here. When I have to make a special trip to a certain store to get the one thing that I'm looking for, that also falls underneath the miscellaneous category, things that I'm not picking up at my regular grocery shopping. So that is estimated at $0 for this pay period. Again, I'm well aware that that is likely going to end up being red before we finish this out, because I can't expect that life won't have something it throws at me in that period of time. I just don't have it to budget. So it's 0 right now. So for my flexible spending, I have estimated, I would have $360 in flexible spending this pay period. At the end of this, we carry all my totals down and see what that looks like as we finish this out. So my ending balance, my income again was estimated to be $1,188.45. My fixed expenses were estimated to be $848.08. My flexible spending is estimated to be $360, which means my total at the end is estimated to be negative $19.63. Now, I don't have, actually, at this point, I do have something to carry over and cover this. But when I set up this pay estimate 3 weeks ago in the very beginning, as I was getting the month and each paycheck set up, I don't have an extra $19 in my account to cover that. If I get through this $19 would come out somewhere, likely out of my groceries, perhaps out of my transportation, maybe out of this toll roads. I don't have this sitting in my bank account for my bank account to swallow up. But when I set up my wage estimates, I always kind of underestimate the hours and I overestimate my insurance, with the idea that this will be a teeny tiny bit more and might encompass that. I will not run my account into the negative. I will carry things over into the next pay period if it comes to that. And maybe my bills just take a little bit longer to get paid. But that's where this ends up as I set up this estimate for paycheck number 2. We do have some things that are going to be adjusted as we get into the actual at the end of the pay period, but that's always the case, even if I don't know it the way I know it this time based on my last, because I know my wages will be different because of that missed punch, and I know this utilities is likely to be different because of the missed punch, not being able to pay that last time. I'm going to get the extra this time, I'm going to pay the extra this time. So those two things we know are likely going to be different just based on the last pay period. But things are always different when we come to the actual versus the estimate. That's why we have an estimate. That's why we come back and check in to see where this is at. I have to tell you guys, I am very excited with where we're at. I finished out July and started August so frustrated and so scared of where I was at budget-wise, financially, how little I had, and having to go at that point and stand in food lines and get food assistance because there was no way for me to get all of the things that had to be done, and I couldn't not do it. In any case, here it is 6 weeks later, and I'm ecstatic about how far I've gotten and how far is left to go and what things are really looking like. I'm so thrilled with the direction I'm heading, and I would not have gotten to this point without having this channel and without having you guys checking in with me and to share that with you guys, because I had definitely gotten to a point where I was ready to throw my hands up and quit and give in. In the past, I had thrown my hands up and quit and given in. I've done that before. That's my normal. This, where we're at now, is so far better than anything I've ever gotten to before. So I'm excited, and I'm really looking forward to the next 2 weeks, the next 2 weeks, the next 2 weeks. At this point, I'm so excited for what's coming. It's hard for me to be in the present and really appreciate here and now, because look how close I am. Look how close I am. Anyway, so that is the end of the budgeting chapter or portion of this video. And next I get into the craft I've been working on. And as you can see, I've kind of progressed pretty far from where we were last time. I now have all of these squares cut apart, resewn together, and now I've got it sandwiched in with, I've got the backing, I've got the batting, and I've got the top. I have begun quilting this together, and when in my quilting, I'm trying to do this as a spider web. There's a spider that's supposed to be dangling down from this and have this Halloween witch hat, which I don't know how much of that really shows up on this little tiny camera space. But there will be a spider that sits in here. This is a witch's hat. And then I've got it framed out in a border, and I will get, anyway, this will be done. But the thing I was going to go and buy is an erasable marking pen. I had been using in the past friction markers. Friction markers, I don't know if Friction is the manufacturer or if like Bic is the manufacturer and Friction is their thing, but the way friction markers work is they have a chemical, they write on whatever it is you need it to write on, and then you use heat to erase it. So when you iron it, those marks go away. There are some for marking on quilting that if you spray it with water or steam it, it goes away. And I was really looking for either one of those two, where it was the heat or the water that makes the marks go away when you no longer need them, but they stay until you're done. And that's what I went looking on Joanne's website for last night. I was like, well, I'm just going to go get that, because getting the web marks to kind of be where I want them to be and have a rough idea as I've got this under the machine, the direction I'm heading, I really need a mark for that. But then I saw something on that website that I realized I remembered I had, and that's this chalk marker from Clover. And this has a spinning wheel on it here, and the chalk comes out, and I can mark on my project with this chalk, and then it just kind of goes away eventually. And when I wash that, that will be gone completely. But I can use this chalk marker for what I wanted to go buy one of those friction pens for. So I still don't have to buy anything. I am quite certain this project will be done before the end of this month. I'm very pleased with how quickly this has gone, and I really like how dynamically this came together. I will say the pattern designer had the ribbon on the hat as a green ribbon, and I didn't really like that green color, and I didn't feel like I had enough green in my stash that I could access at this time. That really would be enough to fit the space. But once this was done, the purple I used that I liked that matched the border so well doesn't show up very well against the black of this hat. So I have to admit that the designer was correct, and this needed to be green. I did get some green in my border on the edging, and it looks really sharp. So if I had it to do all over again, and I don't, I would use the green there, but this is fine just as it is. It's beautiful, and I will call it done and be happy with it. That is where we're at, budget and project. I thank you guys so much for joining me wherever you are and whatever you're doing today. Please have fun. Bye-bye now.